Welcome to the Apex Insider Push to Cash Indy 500 special. I got Nathan here. We got lots of action happening this weekend. Nathan, what's going on, man?
Just getting ready for Christmas Day over here. I left work a little bit early and headed to the track this afternoon. Caught a little bit of rain and a caution, but caught a happy hour at the track. I've had practice kind of playing next to me as I've worked this week, so pretty tuned into it all.
Yeah, yeah. I've unfortunately not been able to keep up. Busy past 2 days, so I am actually going to be leaning on you, especially if you were there, to tell me what you saw. So we'll just this is the pre-qual special. I know we were chit-chatting a little bit before we started, and you were mentioning there might be some odds, some fun stuff out there that we'll get to. So, but yeah, I guess maybe to begin, I did see you dropped your race preview, so let's hear it.
Yeah, and I would say for this race, I'll probably go off of the statistics and the mold behind it, kind of less than any other race, because I just feel like every Indy 500 kind of takes its own story and its own life, and you just kind of have to see what's going on that year and
Mm-hmm.
make your plays off of that. Kind of like when we're talking about like Barber or the Indy GP, we know we can really rely on those people that qualify up front, or we're looking at the pole sitter, things like that. But here it's just going to be we're looking. You kind of have to watch the practice a little bit, listen to the interviews, see what people are saying, feel their confidence level out. But yeah, just a few stats and nuggets from for this race. It's the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Probably the biggest storyline is Joseph Newgarden going for his three-peat, which has never been done in Indy 500 history. We've had a few people win back to back. We've got a few multi-time winners and things like that, but no one has ever won three in a row. It's very difficult to do, obviously. When Newgarden got that win last year, he got Penske his 20th Indy 500 win. And last year, Penske had a front row lockout in qualifying, which they have done before, but it's pretty uncommon. And so that kind of leads into Penske being the favorites here again. But there are some people showing themselves as contenders, whether it's individual drivers on teams or whole teams. Um, but yeah, Newgarden's a good place to start. Um, and when you're looking at the person on pole, which I would expect the Penske to get pole. We'll talk about that. There could be some other people in play, but actually, the pole sitter has not won very much in recent history. There's Simon Pagenaud did it in 2019. He's the only person in the last like 14 races, I believe, to win from pole. Um, I think that's a little bit of just a stat. I don't know if there's anything behind that. I think a little bit of it is that it's difficult for that person when they're leading. They're burning a little more fuel, but that's I wouldn't look too much into that. It's just kind of interesting. Um, and we have 8 former winners, which is a tied for the most, I believe, that in this field. Um,
It's a
and
lot.
yeah. So there's a few people that we've got doing their first oval race ever since it's the first one of the year, and then you've got a good mix of people that have been racing in this for nearly like half their lives, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, it's a big field. It's big names, man. I'm actually trying to pull up all my books and all the odds because I think they're starting to post. I think they took it down on a few when I checked earlier, seeing if anything changed, like what's happening now. But yeah, I Penske, Penske, man, I feel like I try to talk about them every damn time we get on the conversation. I feel like they're teasing me, but like I guess first off, um, what did you notice actually, whether it's yesterday or today? Did you notice anything glaring from any teams, and anything that gives you like, wow, that's something that's concerning? So
So starting with Penske, I am buying into them being the favorites. There was a test in April, 2-day test, which IndyCar does every year, but normally it's kind of gloomy, kind of cold. It doesn't give the best read on these warmer May days that we get. But we actually had some like simulation of May in those 2 days, and um, for the first time, IndyCar also allowed all the drivers to use the boost that they use in qualifying, so horsepower boost that kind of ticks up the speeds a little bit. They've never used that in the test before, but because it's the first year of the hybrid, they wanted to make sure the engines were okay with it and everything ran smoothly there. Penske was probably the strongest team there, and Connor Daly noted that they were in complete race trim, like a lot of downforce, very conservative. And some other teams were trying to get a little bit better read. They were a little more trimmed out, and they were falling behind Penske or maybe just above. So the fact that Penske in this qualifying test was in full race trim and still topping the charts. Yesterday there was an interesting one of the sheets that came out of the trap speeds, which is just like a top speed taken at a given segment on the track. Um, Penske had over 2 miles per hour on the field.
wow.
All three of them, one, two, three, Power, McLaughlin, and Newgarden, were at 237. Everyone else is at 235. I haven't been able to look into that today as much, but and I think the results were a little more mixed, but that just kind of shows them like flexing a little bit, I think, and also I don't feel like they've shown their full hand. So yeah, just as far as Penske, and this is a team who last year qualifying they they had over a mile per hour on the whole field.
Yeah.
So all these teams are needing to make up close to a mile per hour to even touch what Penske had going on.
I mean, and they've been proven on oval tracks, like they're pretty dominant. Like they don't usually have that issue. Any reads on like tire situations though throughout? Like I don't know how many laps they've been doing. Like, did you notice anything with teams calling out, or comments even, like showing that tire deck could be an issue for them as they're approaching the race?
Yeah, I think you know I feel like I've mostly heard it from like Graham Rahal, which you kind of have to take that with like a grain of salt.
Yeah.
He's bound to complain a lot. But he was just saying that there's some more deck than normal. I haven't really heard anyone else talking about it, but you would imagine with all that extra weight in the rear of the car where the hybrid
Yeah.
unit is, it's an extra 100 pounds. So people are kind of comparing this, especially in qualifying. In qualifying, you do 4 laps. And so you're going to, when they fuel these cars, they want to trim them out, they want to make them light. And they're only going to put about as much gas as you need to do those 4 laps. And what this extra 100 pounds is doing is essentially making them feel like they're doing qualifying runs on full fuel tanks. So it's a little bit of a different feel, and I think that's going to have people a little scared when they're qualifying with the rear of the car and losing it. I think you might see some people being a little more cautious and saying, I would love to get pole. That would be great, but maybe I'll take,
Scale
13th
back.
if I can or something. Yeah, because it's going to take some real courage, I think, to lay it all out there more than any other year.
Yeah. No, it makes sense too. Maybe you don't want to be at the top right away. It's a long race, right? Like you've got time, you've got opportunities. Um, I say that, but like obviously this is the first year with the hybrid at Indy 500 too. So um, it's going to be interesting. Okay, so we got Penske. You're bought in. I hate you for that because I thought I was buying in, and then I was like, okay, maybe I'm out. But now I'm just being pulled right back in, because I have been contemplating what I wanted to do. Because number one, Joseph Newgarden's just kind of been disappointing this year. I'm not saying I'm going to take him outright. I don't think his number justifies outright, to be quite honest with you. I'm sure it is, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it's hard to win 3. It's a little bit more competitive. Um, yeah. So I'd like right now I'm looking at XBet, and they have it at 6-1, 6-1, or 650, 640 actually for Joseph Newgarden. Alex Palou 660. So
Yeah, I would. My suggestion, if you want to take Newgarden, that if I wouldn't take him any lower than like 750 or 800.
yeah,
I think if he gets pole, he'll probably drop to 4-1 or 5-1. But um, so 6-1 is a little bit of a risk where
yeah,
he could start fourth or fifth, and you could get
get
that
better
number
number.
a little better. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I see Palou seems to be doing well if he's still at 660. I think that's where he was before on this site. Actually, I'm gonna switch over to DraftKings, but well, let's go ahead and talk about. Wow, Palou is actually 450 on DraftKings now.
Yeah, I think they've moved him down a couple weeks ago just from his winning. So
Mm,
DraftKings is pretty reactionary to what's going on in the season for Indy 500 betting. So that's why I know sometimes when DraftKings has a really good number to start the year, you kind of have to take it because if you expect that driver to do well to start the season, DraftKings is gonna think that translates to the 500 immediately. So like if you have Canby or Bet Rivers, that's going to be the book that's going to be the most reactionary of practice that I've seen. So they're pulling the lines every day and then reposting, um, with people kind of moving around quite a bit, which is kind of risky by them because there's some people out there that have good numbers and but the practice times just aren't showing that yet.
yeah. Okay. Okay. And what do you think about like Palou just in general? Does he have a legit shot, we think, this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of people would be, we know Polo hasn't won an oval yet, but he has finished second here, and I think he that's a good opportunity for him to learn. He got passed by Helio late in that race, who's a master at finishing those
Yeah.
situations, obviously with 4 wins. And then Polo has some other instances, like I think about Texas 2023, where he was mixing it up at the end with Pato and Newgarden. That was an amazing race, but
Yeah.
um, like Palou has had his flashes of good oval racing. He just hasn't won yet. And I would say so far he has looked like the next best car mixed in with Penske. He's looked really strong. Him and Dixon both. I think Ganassi is right there behind Penske, which is a big jump from Ganassi struggled last year. I think Palou qualified like 15th and Dixon was 21st maybe. And I would expect them to be a lot higher this year. They're the second strongest team for sure, right there behind Penske.
What do you think about Armstrong then? If Chip Ganassi's second, how did he do?
Armstrong has looked good, and I think he's learned a lot. The only problem is that his engine failed, I think, 5 laps into last year's race. And so he did get some oval experience on the back end, but he doesn't have the super speedway oval experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he'll actually qualify pretty well because Helio is, giving probably some of that guidance. And Helio looks really good. He's probably a top like 7 right now in my mind of how people are running. And so Armstrong might be kind of someone that maybe they'll make the top 12 or just miss it. And then I might look to fade just based off his inexperience.
All right. Okay. Then let's shift to Pato and McLaren. What's
So
what's going on
they
with them?
they've been pretty slow. Just on the times. They'll be like all of their cars will be in the bottom half. Pato admitted in an interview, he said we never have the top speed, like just by ourselves. He says we have really good race cars, but our speed is never anywhere near what some of these other teams have, which is kind of interesting. And um, but I can see because Pato's never contending for pole. Really, he'll be like in that 4 to 9 range or something, which I think he's really comfortable with in the race. And so that's a guy that I haven't made any bets on yet. I love to bet on Pato at the 500, but I just like to wait, let his number get better, and then also give it some time to see kind of where they're at. But I do think he's like one of the guys in the field that can take an average car, which I think he kind of had last year in the race, and was a corner away from winning the whole thing. So he's a guy you can kind of count on at this track, even if his car isn't the best.
Yeah, I'm looking at Bet365, so he's at 7-1. Kyle Larson's at 7-1 on this site. Did he do that great? Am I missing
No,
something?
I feel like the books just take so much action from NASCAR
Yeah,
bettors
gotta be.
taking them and people that are interested in the story. I think he'll do good again. I will be looking to fade him. I
Mm-mm.
don't see
Oh
him
yeah,
winning. I
no.
um, so I so hopefully with him being up there in those numbers, that we'll get matchups against some of like the big dogs or have him in groups with people that we can kind of write him off and just I think he did well last year, but I'm not really concerned. He'll have to prove me wrong, I guess.
Well, it's interesting going back to McLaren just overall as a team. They don't have the top speed. They usually set up for race trim, which makes sense, right? Especially in IndyCar, it's different than F1. If you start in fourth, you still at least probably have a shot to win, anyways. Um, in ninth, it's a little bit more challenging, especially this year without yellows and stuff like that, but still. But that makes me think like that's been kind of their trend throughout the year, and they still haven't won a race this year. I mean, they were close, I guess, technically, until Pelot took Pato at the end of thermal. But now we're at ovals. I mean, is the hybrid actually going to impact them more than we expect, I guess, at the oval? Because we haven't truly seen it here, but we did see a flavor of it last year. And I actually need to look back at, I got to remember like what happened to McLaren as a whole. But what do you think?
Which McLaren did well last year. That Rossi was fourth. He was in the mix at the end there. So him and
Yeah.
Rossi were really strong. Larson was strong, but he made a few mistakes throughout the race.
So Pato got
Um,
second in the Nashville Super Speedway. That's pretty good. And
yeah, I
yeah, so he did well, basically. Okay.
I do have slight concern just with them right now. I feel like they've never been a team that's like Penske and Ganassi and sometimes Andretti are showing up at the top of these practice charts, which they don't always mean everything. But
Yeah.
McLaren never's topped them, but they used to kind of be there in the mix. Like you could look not too far down and be like, okay, they had some good laps, but
Mm-hmm.
these first 2 days, McLaren hasn't. I think I've been put in the Discord each day. I've kind of put where I've felt where each team was at, and I moved McLaren to like sixth right now as far as teams. Um, but I do have some confidence that they're in their race car, but I think they're going to need to show some more. I'm a little cautious on them right now.
Yeah, that is definitely something I want to pay attention to as this weekend goes along, uh, because that sounds very bearish on backing McLaren. But you did talk about Andretti. I do want to get your take on them. What's going on? How are they? How's Kirkwood and Ericsson doing here more than anything?
So Kirkwood keeps topping the no toe charts. So basically, that means that there's no cars in front of him within 10 seconds that are kind of giving him a nice pull around the track, which is a good indicator of just raw speed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just been a lot of talk about Kirkwood. I talked to a friend today that works at Andretti, and he says that um, Kirkwood looks really good. So last year, like Herta was kind of that guy for Andretti. They seem to be solid, but maybe there's one car that stands out each year. And right now, it's looking like Kirkwood's the guy on that
Kirkwood's the
team.
guy. Okay.
But across the board, the whole team looks all right. I think we'll have to see kind of Fast Friday and what kind of draw they get for qualifying to see how much of a threat they're really going to make. But um, I I'm very confident in my bets for Penske to win pole, but I'm kind of debating each day of like should I add Kirkwood as a little bit of a hedge.
I'm thinking that is the route I'm going, especially if they're still at 20-1. Like Ericsson and Kirkwood are at 20-1. If you're saying they look really competitive and they look strong actually in Iowa last year, I think it was. So,
I
and
heard a
if you
one Nashville, which was a race that
and
Kirkwood got pole in.
and what you're saying, right? Like Herta was our guy normally that would back into ovals. Something's going on with him in his car specifically this year. He's in some bad luck. Um, I'm tempted to, if you think, because Colton's at 14-1 right now. So Herta's at 14-1. Why not? If you think Kirkwood is that man in that little snippet you gave about your insider, 20-1 is not bad,
Yeah,
actually.
and I think he's even on like Bet Rivers. He's 25-1 right now and plus 700 for a podium. On Caesars, you can get him 10-1 to win the pole, which is a little short. I
Uh,
think they moved that after testing, but
mhm.
those are all good numbers. I have already bet Kirkwood at plus 650 for a podium. It's moved actually because his overall speeds on the charts are not the highest, but his no toe speeds and just his comfort level in traffic has seemed really solid so far. So his numbers actually gotten better, even though he's been looking really good.
God, can I just say I hate Caesar's web version. It is just terrible. Okay, now I see qualifying there. You said Kirkwood has moved since then on Caesars?
I don't think he started at 10-1. He would have been longer than that, but
Mhm.
he had the best time in the test on the qualifying trim in April, and
Mhm.
then in each practice day, I think he's at the best no toe speed.
He should have been around 15-1 for sure. I think that was the number he was at. Because Ericsson's at 15-1, Colton's at 14-1. So he would be in that range. I like that. And then you said there's top finishers. Man, so Bet Rivers and Caesars has a plethora of options at good numbers, basically, is what you're saying.
Yep,
Hmm.
MGM has podium bets too. If you have that, I think um, Bet Rivers has the best lines that overall,
Yeah.
but FanDuel, as far as outrights, have the softest lines. I think you can still get everyone at 8-1 or longer.
Really?
Um,
Do you have access to it?
yep, I'll pull it up.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm looking at it too. I'm just curious. Getting to Indy 500, man.
Like Dixon sitting at 12-1 on FanDuel has been tempting me. I feel like McLaughlin was, unless he's moved, he was still at 12-1, which
He
is
is. Oh.
that's crazy to me. I McLaughlin's
Oh.
my favorite right
Oh,
now.
I want that one. That is the one. Okay, I'm writing notes right now. I was waiting for us to record so I can finally like see. What am I actually gonna do pre-qual? Okay, I like the FanDuel one. So I'm FanDuel, Scott. Yeah, yep,
I mean,
yep.
I think Scott McLaughlin's the favorite to repeat for pole, and he will be at 4 or 5 to 1. I mean, this number is going to get cut in half if he does that. If he doesn't get pole, he'll be 7 or 8 to 1 probably, unless he really, blows it that
Well, I
day.
mean, yeah, like the implied odds right there are telling you should, because if his qualify, he's the top man to qualify P1. That 12 to 1 is easily dropping down. He may not hit, obviously, but then you can just go and take P2 or whoever, just see who's P2 or 3, and then you can maybe get a better number. I love this. Okay. Well, then what about qualifying? I don't know
Well,
if I want to do Kirkwood at 10 to 1 now that it's dropped.
yeah, all these have moved a little bit. I
Bet
got
Rivers.
McLaughlin at 4 to 1 and Newgarden at 5 to 1. Power at 750. I took all three of them. I didn't want to take any chances. Um,
Okay.
but they've all, I don't know if they've all moved, but I know McLaughlin's pretty short right now,
Yeah.
260, and Newgarden's at 4 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
And McLaughlin's a guy who's out qualified Newgarden like 80 to 90% of the ovals in the last couple of years. So the 260 is really short. That's tough to take.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but Will Power at 7 to 1. I would not bet him to win the race. I don't necessarily like him in the 500, but to get pole,
It's pretty
I
good.
do think there's some value in there at 7 to 1.
Okay, so then Bet Rivers will be good for the top markets, and then Caesars will be good for qualifying. Does anyone else have qualifying?
No, this is all I've
Mm.
seen. I'm hoping. I looked back. We got GridRival plays the Thursday before qualifying last year, and so I'm hoping tomorrow we'll see something from them. But
Yeah, I'm gonna try to pay attention, go back and see, but let's cook some grid rival, man. I'm pumped about that. Pumped. Okay. Well, cool. Well, now that I'm kind of up to speed here, I'm gonna be shopping. So I think I'm gonna do definitely that 12 to 1. I gotta phone these in, so that's why I want to make sure I get it in today. I want to do. I'm gonna probably do an outright, but I may be patient on that. I may actually wait I'm sorry, qualifying. I may wait one more day before I decide, but I'm thinking about doing potentially that willpower just because of the odds. Um, I don't know. I don't know. Um,
yeah, so I mean I approached this race a little differently. A normal weekend I'm going to take 1 to 3 people on an outright, normally on the lower end. Um, in the 500, I'll bet up to like 8 or 9 people at really long odds just to have fun with trying to hit
mm-hmm.
people at certain values and things like that. It's kind of just more of a test myself of seeing if I could take people at the right time of how I think they're going to qualify and stuff. But it essentially all comes out the same of I'm putting down a little more risk as far as my outrights, but I'm still looking to win about the same of, basically a half to 2.5 units in the end. So I'm not just if someone were to look at my betting card, it would look like it's almost too much, but the math does work out. If you take these people at the right numbers, you can have fun with taking several outrights. With some of these people at longer shots.
Yeah, I mean 12 to 1. It's anything at that 10 to 1 more, just depending on how you're distributing your unit sizes. Yeah, it will work out in your favor long term. Well, cool. Yeah, and we'll get to Grid Rival too. this weekend. What else? I guess one question I had was around Meyer Shank. Anything? Yes,
Uh,
no.
like I mentioned a little bit, Helio looks really good.
Okay.
He looked good in the test. Um, Felix
Felix.
has
Yeah.
he's kind of slowed down the last couple days. Maybe teams could have different plans where they have people work on, try this out. I actually saw Newgarden today. They had him doing different qual runs where he was testing out where to use the hybrid deployment, which was really interesting. The strategies of that, of some people might only use it one time in all 4 laps. Some people might use it in every short shoot. Whatever they'll each team will probably come to the consensus of there'll be one thing of the best way to do it. But it was interesting to see that in real time of Newgarden testing those things out. Of I'm going to use it each straightaway, or I'm going to use it in the short shoots. But anyway, that's sometimes it's hard to know what everyone's doing in their running. Of are they just trying to do full fuel runs? Are they trying out weird configurations, seeing what sticks. But Helios looked like the strength on that team. I would, in my kind of team rankings, I've put Meyer Shank right now right behind Ganassi. Um, and then I've got Andretti, and then I think I did um, Ed Carpenter with Rossi. He's looked pretty strong, good speed. That was kind of a everyone understands that kind of match made in heaven of Rossi's um, success here at the 500 and Ed Carpenter's speed. So it's not really a surprise so far. And then I have McLaren there.
What is Rossi's number to win? Where is he? Oh, there he is. I have a 14-1 for Rossi. It seems kind of short.
Yeah, he started short this year, and I think the books understood that kind of pairing of him and Ed Carpenter that caused. And he had a really good result. He should have gotten third last year, ended fourth. Um, and so I just kind of waited for that to drop. Like I think Bet Rivers has even moved him slightly
Let's
to something a little better,
see.
18-1 there. So it's kind of getting there.
Oh, that's top three. Yeah, I might be patient on that. Okay. Okay. So to recap, you have actually I could probably just go to your stuff and see. Let's see. Oh. Right.
I've got it here. I can.
Yeah, spit it
Um,
out. Let's recap what you got.
so my main, I took McLaughlin at 10-1 all the way back in January. I can't believe there's a 12-1 out there. I'm kind of sad about that, but I'm happy about the 10-1. Um, I have now taken McLaughlin a podium too. I took him plus 300.
Nice.
I think he's still sitting around that. He's kind of my favorite right now to build around. I did take a Kirkwood podium at 650, like I mentioned, and I went a little higher on that because I don't know that I'm going to take him to win, so that if he gets that podium, that'll kind of cover some of that. Um, some long shots I can talk through real quick. I took Rasmussen at 80-1. It's 80-1. I don't have a lot to say that like a lot of conviction about him winning, but he showed a lot in the race last year. He's with Ed Carpenter. They're gonna have good speed. I got Felix and Malukas at 50-1. Um, just real real small units on that. Um, just guys that have shown stuff here before on ovals that are on strong teams is the type of people I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I did go ahead and take Helio at 30-1, but if you wanted to wait on that, I could see it maybe getting a little longer if he fails to make the fast 12. But um, he's I'm kind of leaning more and more that he will qualify kind of in the top 10. Um, then I have the qualifying bets on all Team Penske cars. I took a super long shot with a each way bet and the podium too of Siegel at 150-1. something that you don't have to mess with that if that's just take people like I'm that's just me kind of having fun and seeing how close I can get to something
Closest to the
ridiculous.
pin kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and I did all the way back in January. I did take New Garden at 650, which is crazy of how much better of a number I could have gotten. But
I
um,
mean, at the time, we didn't realize that this was going to happen to New Garden. So
yeah, because if he would have had a stronger start to the season, like he did last year before the push to pass scandal, where he was kind of making his way to championship contention again, and then he goes and puts this thing in the front row again. I mean, you're looking at 3-1 or something. So I took my chances. I went way smaller than I did with McLaughlin. It's kind of just a cover of Newgarden looks really good again. They said today that Newgarden joked and they said they pulled him off the track today because he loves his car so much. He was making moves that he shouldn't be making in a practice session. They were kind of like, dude, chill out.
looking
But he
good
was just
then.
having, yeah, Newgarden looks,
Looking good.
he's really comfortable. Um, just in his interviews on track.
Ooh, excuse me.
So there's better numbers out there for Newgarden. I know a three-peat's unlikely, all that, but
But
if you're
qualifying is not bad. He might stick it in qualifying. So I like that you're the play on the Penske side for qualifying.
yeah, so even like I was saying with the math, even though I've taken 5, 6, 7 people, whatever, I have room for at least one other person here in the next week, and I'm sitting on a $25 free bet that I'll probably throw in someone else too. So the math can work out if you want to throw some darts, take some one or two favorites, take one or two in the middle, and take one or two long shots and have fun with the race. That's what I love to do for the 500.
Yeah. No, I love it. Man, I got to think about which one I want to strike on, but I I definitely want to get on that Scott McLaughlin 12-1. So,
Yeah, that is crazy. I
and that top 3 actually. I really do like the top 3. I think it's plus 260 now. So,
Yeah, because these. So what I can say, once these guys qualify well, their podiums drop down to like even money. Um, Especially Newgarden. Like if Newgarden being a two-time winner, he puts on the front row again. He's going to be at like one plus 110 or something. McLaughlin was all the way down to plus 120 post qualifying.
yeah.
So if I'm thinking he's putting on pole again, like I'm getting like 3x value there.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to go full unit if you really want to. Just do half. Just throw something because it's still at a you're still getting 2-1. It's pretty good, especially if he still sticks it in the top 3. So
Yeah, and like that's what the other person I'd say that has great value, like I've mentioned, is Kirkwood at 7-1,
yeah,
top three. I almost like that better than even though his outright is getting really, really juicy to take. Maybe he doesn't quite have that experience of winning the race and running up, taking that final move or holding off someone. But a top three, his progression of eventually winning this race at 7-1, and someone that I think is gonna fight the Penske's for a front row position is good value.
it's actually still it's 10-1 on for qualifying. Hold on,
Yeah, qualifying.
Caesar qualifying has him 10-1.
Yep, and
So
the
I might have to do it. I don't
he's
know.
he's worrying me for my Penske bets, but I still feel. I mean, there's a lot pointing that Penske will. Connor Daly says that he thinks it's going to be another front row sweep for Penske. But
Really? Okay.
but
Okay.
that was before this week started, so that was after what he saw in the test.
Man, okay. So I got a lot to think about and what I want to play, but I love it. I feel primed and ready, and I'm getting excited actually. So, uh, cool. Any last thoughts?
I think I spit out everything that I could think of from the
Yeah,
last couple days, but I'm gonna have a ton more plays, and I know it.
yeah,
Everyone else will too. So just jump in the Discord. We'll be talking a lot, every day, going over the charts, and there's already some guys in there talking about what they're seeing, and no, it's exciting times.
yeah. I need to catch up with everything. I've just been kind of ignoring all of the chats just to get my life together. But now that I've been doing some shopping, I am gonna try to be a little bit more active as we're now seeing odds pop up and everything. I want to try to post on Twitter as well, so people can see, like, track what we're looking at as well. That's you called out like qualifyings over here on Caesar, and we got some podiums on Bet Rivers and Caesar actually. So might be sharing a little bit more of the odds that keep dropping. And Bet US actually, I noticed here in the past couple hours, finally posted some stuff, but just outrights. But I'll take it. I could still get 10-1 technically with Scott. Kirkwood's still 20-1. But yeah.
Little Bet US sending me physical mail every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I finally got through my rollover, and it only took that to finally, now I'm like, oh, awesome, I'm done. I can finally cash out. And I'm like, fuck, I'm losing my ass in the past two races in F1. So I was like, not working out well, but we're gonna rebound. So
Yeah, it's bounce back ahead.
yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I'm looking forward to this weekend. And yes, if you come and find us in the Discord, we're going to be very, very active throughout the week. I mean, and yeah, shout out to Nathan for being boots on the ground too, and kind of give us a lot of this insight. It's lovely, lovely stuff. So
Best time of the year.
I love it. I love it. All right. We'll see ya.
Later.